She wasn't even on the manifest. Her name was never supposed to appear on the roster, and yet, there she was. On a fog-covered ridge, trembling, heart hammering in her chest, a scoped rifle shaking in her hands. The camera bag she carried had snapped somewhere behind her, and the enemy soldier she had in her sights was 15 seconds from killing 6 Americans. What would you have done? Fired a weapon you weren't authorized to touch? Taken a life to save others, when all you were trained to do was watch and report? Tell me this before we begin. What country are you watching from? Because by the end of this story, your heart won't be where it started. Avery Blake never wanted to be a soldier. He admired them, sure. Respected them. Feared for them. But war had broken her family once already, and she wasn't about to let it take any more pieces. Her father had served, and her brother too. One returned with ribbons and ghosts. The other didn't return at all. So Avery chose the only path that let her stay. Close without getting pulled under. She became a military communications specialist. Cameras, documentation, analysis, and not combat. Her job was to observe, not engage. Record, not react. Stay safe, not become the story. At 28, she had already filmed 6 humanitarian missions, 3 disaster recoveries, and 1 classified training exercise involving special ops in Alaska. She'd seen soldiers freeze in fear. She'd seen them laugh after near death. She'd seen a general cry when a village child saluted, him with a hand missing 2 fingers. And in every frame she stayed behind the camera. Her assignment to Echo Recon Unit 7 had been an administrative error or maybe divine intervention. The original tech specialist slotted for the mission had come, down with pneumonia 48 hours before departure. Avery had just wrapped her last tour and happened to be in the same base zone. She wasn't even supposed to be in that command's rotation. Blake, the operations captain asked over comms. You good to hop on this recon ride along? We just need footage for briefing material. No contact, strictly eyes on. Avery hesitated. What's the zone? Northern border. Snow range. Intel says quiet, low movement. 2-day hike. No drama. She said yes. She always said yes. She packed her gear, recharged every battery, and ran lens checks with the precision of a heart surgeon. What she didn't pack and never intended to was fear. That came later. The transport chopper dropped them, off 12 miles from the observation post. 10 soldiers. 1 civilian. Thick pine cover, fog rolling in like cotton death. Avery wore a vest too big and boots too stiff. She didn't speak unless spoken to. The unit's commanding officer, Lieutenant Carson Hale, gave her a 2-minute safety rundown that sounded like a courtesy. Not a necessity. No matter what, he said, you stay with the rear guard. If bullets fly, you drop and stay low. Clear? She nodded. But the smirk said more than his words. Hey, Blake, a corporal called during dinner. If we get jumped, you planning to beat them with a tripod? Laughter. She smiled politely and said nothing. Inside, a whisper stirred. The one she had buried for years. The one that knew how to aim. The one that had spent weekends with her father on the shooting range as a teen, quietly matching his precision. Her dad used to say, being a sniper isn't about pulling a trigger. It's about reading a story no one else sees. Wind, light, breath, distance. You pull only when you understand everything else first. She had learned with a .308 bolt-action rifle. She beat her brother's scores by 14. After his death, she locked her rifle in a case and promised her mother she'd never fire again. I can't lose another one to war, her mom had whispered. So Avery chose the lens. It still required silence, patience, understanding of shadows and distance. Only difference was, her shots never drew blood. Day 1 of the hike was uneventful. Mostly silence, mostly scanning. She recorded hours of terrain footage, adjusted focal lengths for thermal overlays, and quietly matched pace with soldiers who still underestimated her. By the second night, one of the snipers, Sergeant Drew Morales, spotted her adjusting her camera, orientation using wind readings. He raised an eyebrow. That's not standard photography practice. She shrugged. Drift affects frame stability. My father taught me that. With rifles, he didn't laugh. Instead, he handed her an unused training-grade rifle during downtime. Just point and hold. Let's see what the wind taught you. She did more than that. She hit a pine cone 300 yards out, center punch. He didn't say anything. But later, when the whispers returned, she shouldn't be here. Why waste resources? Morales didn't join in. He just watched her silently. Day 4. The unit moved into a narrow stretch between 2 cliff walls. Snow had thickened overnight. Visibility dropped to 20%. Tension in the air became chemical. Something wasn't right. Carson radioed in a slight change of plan. Split maneuver to triangulate recon from above. You sure? Morales asked. We'll have higher sightlines. It's just for an hour. Avery volunteered to take the ridge path to film overhead footage. No, Hale snapped. You're not, but Morales interjected. She's got the kit. I'll shadow her. 2 sets of eyes from above might catch more than drones. Reluctantly, Carson agreed. She climbed. The ridge was brutal, 70-degree incline and boots never meant for it. She reached the top winded but steady. Below, the team fanned out like ants against powdered white. Through her lens, she saw shadows. Then movement. Then, flash. Gunfire. She froze. The left flank collapsed. Shouts. Muzzle bursts. The comms crackled like thunder. 2 men down. Get to cover! Hale's voice barked. The enemy? 5? No, Sick has had them pinned. And she was above it all. Watching, filming. And then, from the left, in a shadow moving different. No gunfire. Just one man. With a launcher, RPG. He moved quietly toward a rock formation, a blind spot from her team's position. 30 more steps, and he'd wipe out all 6 soldiers pinned behind that ridge. Her camera zoomed. Her pulse screamed. Her eyes darted to the ground near her pack. Sergeant Morales' rifle. Left with her during the climb, just in case. She reached for it with shaking hands. Avery, she whispered to herself, this isn't your job. You don't have to... But then she saw Morales, dragging a wounded soldier by the vest. She saw Hale's helmet knocked off. She saw someone's blood staining the snow. And she saw the enemy soldier raise the RPG. Time slowed. She settled the butt of the rifle against her backpack. Her finger hovered over the trigger. Her father's voice faint. Don't fire unless you understand the shot, the cost, and the consequence, she exhaled. And squeezed. The crack of the rifle echoed like judgment. She didn't see where the bullet hit. Didn't know if she had missed. Didn't know what came next. But down below, someone shouted, Sniper on the northwest ridge. Friendly? Another voice. Who the hell? Another. Enemies retreating. They're falling back. And in that one instant, everything changed. The camera was still rolling. The lens still framed her shaking hands. She had taken one shot. And the lives of 6 soldiers had just been spared. But Avery Blake? She was never supposed to be there. The valley went silent for 5 full seconds. No one moved. No one fired. No one breathed. The enemy soldier with the RPG had collapsed into the snow, arm twisted unnaturally, launcher flung aside. The reconnaissance team, still behind their rocky cover, hadn't even seen him coming. But they heard the shot. Sniper, high ridge! Someone had shouted. A warning, a question, and a hope, all rolled into one. Lieutenant Carson Hale ducked, spun, and grabbed his field scope, scanning the northwest cliff line. Through fog and drifting snow, he spotted her silhouette. Small, hunched, rifle steady. That's Blake. The words slipped out before he could stop them. What? Morales turned. You said she was staying out of the engagement. I know what I said. As the enemy scattered, some retreating, others dragging their wounded, the unit began to push forward. Under Hale's orders, they advanced in short bursts, clearing out flanking threats. 2 of their own were wounded, Corporal Diaz with a shoulder hit, and Private Whitmore with shrapnel tearing through his leg. Secure the ridge! Hale barked into his comms. Morales was already sprinting uphill. He found Avery not crouched in a sniper's pose, but sitting on the cold ground back against a rock, the DMR rifle across her lap. She was crying. Not loudly, not weakly, just silently, as if each tear was permission for a piece of her soul to leave quietly. The lens cap of her camera was still off. It had recorded everything. I wasn't supposed to do that, she said without looking up. Morales knelt. He checked the rifle. 1 shot fired, centered. You saved 6 lives. That's supposed to matter. I broke protocol. You followed instinct. That's what soldiers do. I'm not a soldier. No, he agreed. You're the reason some still get to go home. Back at the mobile camp, Hale debated what to write in the mission report. He was torn between truth and survival, not of bodies but of reputations. A civilian communications specialist had used an unauthorized weapon in active combat. Yes, she saved lives. Yes, she prevented a massacre. But if word got out, there would be inquiries. Congressional hearings. Media firestorms. So he did what too many leaders do when their ethics are at war with consequences. He wrote the report without her. The kill was marked unknown sniper. The footage she took was logged for analysis, but not mentioned as combat intelligence. That night, Morales watched the raw footage. It started with soldiers eating and joking, then terrain scanning, then the firefight, then the shot. And in the final 10 seconds, her face just barely visible in a corner reflection. Frozen, pale, brave, the video should have stayed in internal files. But Morales copied a short 17-second clip. No names, no voices, just the moment of silence, shot, the enemy dropping, and a subtitle he added himself. Sometimes the person holding the camera is the last line of defense. He didn't expect it to go viral, but it did. First on an anonymous military forum, then Reddit, then military TikTok. Within 2 days, the Pentagon press office was flooded with inquiries. Who was the mystery sniper who saved the recon team? Why was their identity being protected? Was this a soldier out of uniform? Or someone else entirely? Avery's mother found out through a forwarded link from her church friend. The video was blurry, but she knew that posture. She knew that breath. That was her daughter. She texted Avery a simple message. I know. I'm proud. Please come home. Avery stared at the screen for 20 minutes before replying. I never wanted to do this, Mom. I only wanted to help. Her mother responded, You did, in the most extraordinary way. Corporal Diaz, who took a bullet for Whitmore during the ambush, woke in the mobile hospital with limited memory, but he remembered the shot. That sniper, that ghost shot. It saved our flank. Private Whitmore was told the same night. He had a photograph in his wallet, his newborn daughter. He whispered to the medic, Whoever made that shot, tell her I owe her every moment of her life. General Malcolm Graves, division commander, watched the video in his office, twice. Then he called Lieutenant Hale. What the hell happened up there, Carson? Hale hesitated. She acted on instinct. She shouldn't have, but we'd be burying 6 today if she hadn't. I can't endorse this, but I also can't ignore it. So what now? Graves looked at the paused video, the blurred shot, the camera swinging just enough to show Avery's shadow. We keep it classified. No interviews, no awards, but we assign her wherever she wants to go. Over the next month, Avery received no official recognition, but letters came. Through internal channels. Through soldiers who found her location. One letter from Private Whitmore's wife simply read, Because of you, my daughter knows her father. Thank you. One from Diaz's younger brother. I didn't believe in heroes until my brother told me about you. And then, a package arrived. Unmarked, no return address. Inside, a military challenge coin. One of only 12 ever made for acts of valor not recognized by command. No note, just that coin. Lieutenant Hale called her in late. He handed her a file, reassignment papers. You've been given a choice. She raised an eyebrow. Stay where you are, but comms, filming, reporting, or apply for tactical training, infantry, field sniper team. Avery laughed bitterly. Now they want me to fight? Hale shook his head. No, they want to make sure that if it ever happens again, you're allowed to. She looked down at her hands. The trigger finger that had saved 6 lives, the palm that still shook at night. What if I can't do it again? She asked. He leaned forward. You already did it once, when it mattered most. Avery didn't answer for 3 days. She spent them walking the edges of the base, camera in hand. She filmed children waving at soldiers. She filmed training drills. She filmed an empty hill at sunset, where wind moved the grass like whispers. And then she filmed herself, looking directly into the lens. I don't want to be a killer, she said. But I won't let others die because I didn't act. She paused. And maybe that's what being a soldier means. She signed the papers the next morning. On her first day of sniper training, she was asked why she wanted to join the program. She answered, I already know how to see. Now I want to know what to do with what I see. The instructor, a decorated veteran, looked at her for a long time. You were the girl from the clip, weren't you? Avery said nothing, but she smiled. 6 months later, during a blackout extraction in the mountains, a new sniper was listed on the team. Codename, Echo Eye. Known for unbroken focus. Known for silence. When a private asked who trained her, someone said she trained herself. All it took was one shot. And somewhere in a locked vault, there still sits a recording of a moment the world wasn't supposed to see, of a decision no one thought she could make, but Avery Blake was never supposed to be there. And that's what made all the difference. The sun hadn't yet broken over the horizon, but the base was already buzzing with quiet movement, boots crunching frost, helicopters humming in the distance, radios crackling with half-asleep commands. Avery Blake stood outside the comms tent, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of black coffee, staring out toward the mountains that had redefined her life. 6 months had passed since the shot, since the lie, since the letters. She had chosen to stay in service, tactical now, not just visual, but part of her still lingered on that ridge, next to the broken rifle and the sound of a shot that never stopped echoing. That's when the male officer jogged up to her. "Blake, one for you." She took the envelope, slightly crumpled at the edges, with no return address. Only a red ink stamp that read, "Forwarded by command authorization." Inside, a folded piece of notebook paper and a photograph. She unfolded it slowly. "Dear Miss Blake, I don't know your name officially. I was told that the sniper's identity was classified, but my husband knows, and I know he wouldn't lie about something like this. That day, he should have died. The whole unit should have. But they didn't, because of you. I wasn't ready to raise our 3 kids alone. I wasn't ready to explain why Daddy wasn't coming home. Thanks to you, I didn't have to. My youngest, Lily, just turned 5. Her favorite game is pretending to spot bad guys with her superhero eyes. We know who she's imitating. We call her Hero, the ghost on the ridge. I hope someday when the dust settles, you understand just what you did. Not just for them, for us. Love, Kayla Whitmore." Avery sat on the bench, letter in one hand, photo in the other. In the photo, a man in uniform with bandages still on his face, smiling wide with his arms around a little girl holding a toy camera. The girl wore a paper tag on her jacket that read in crayon, "Echo I Jr." Avery smiled. For the first time in weeks, it wasn't a quiet smile. It was real. Tears welled up, not from guilt, but from recognition. They didn't know her name, but they knew what she'd done. And that was enough. She folded the letter gently and slipped it into her gear bag, right beside the worn challenge coin and her father's dog tags. The world might never know who fired that shot, but the people who mattered did. And she was no longer just the girl with the camera. Avery Blake now carried 2 sets of gear. One in a padded case marked Optics Recon, and the other, slung tight against her back, a suppressed sniper rifle with a modified thermal scope. She wasn't a ghost anymore. Not just a camera girl. She was on official orders now, a designated Overwatch specialist. The mission was called Operation Frost Lock, a 3-phase coordination between reconnaissance teams and civilian extraction near the volatile Red Valley border. Intel warned of insurgents embedding within evacuation zones. Command needed eyes, silence, and if necessary, precision fire. Her new team leader, Captain Drew Lennox, eyed her as she boarded the chopper. "You ever kill someone who wasn't carrying a weapon?" he asked. Avery paused. "I don't pull the trigger unless the story ends worse without it." He raised an eyebrow. "Interesting philosophy for a sniper." She met his gaze. "Interesting question for a captain." No one spoke after that. The team touched down under moonlight. Locals had been told to stay inside. The Red Valley had turned cold and tense after recent border strikes. Avery took position inside an abandoned grain mill, her rifle facing the evacuation corridor. Her camera rested beside her, already capturing night footage. She counted. 4 soldiers guiding families, 1 mother with 3 children, 2 elders being carried, and then a man trailing at the edge. No bag, no ID band, no eye contact. She zoomed in. Something was off. The man kept one hand under his coat. He passed close to the children, stopped near the evacuation truck, and adjusted something beneath his foot. Pressure trigger. Avery's eyes widened. She radioed in. Possible IED at vehicle entry. Suspect planting disguise device. Unarmed, but active threat. Captain Lennox replied, "Visual confirm?" "Confirmed." "Orders?" Avery exhaled. The man was unarmed, technically, no weapon drawn. Just a buried charge and cold hands. Avery's finger moved near the trigger, but didn't touch it. Not this time. She lowered the rifle, picked up her handheld mic, and began recording. Visual evidence, timestamp marked. Suspect placing triggering device near evacuation truck tires. Children present. She switched comms. Requesting non-lethal capture unit. He hasn't moved yet. Lennox. Negative. Extraction first. If he's flagged, eliminate. No. That one word rang out louder than gunfire. Lennox. Blake, this isn't optional. But Avery had already moved. Pack on, camera in hand. Feet pounding down from the mill as she ran straight toward the evac zone. Shouts erupted. Soldiers raised weapons. The suspect spun around. His hand now definitely reaching for something. Avery shouted in Dari, "B-man!" "Dastatranabar." He froze. Her voice had been loud, commanding, even more than her rank allowed. The soldiers tackled him seconds later. No bomb, not yet. But beneath the gravel, a pressure device wired and set. Not armed, but fully installed. A kill switch in his pocket. They detained him alive. Avery stood beside the IED and simply pointed at it with her camera. Now imagine if I had just fired. Lennox stared at her. You disobeyed a direct... She cut him off. I followed the mission, protect lives. All of them. Later that night, the children boarded the truck safely. The man was processed and, through translation, admitted he was ordered to target U.S. military vehicles, not civilians, believing he could time it after the kids had left. He had been wrong. One of the mothers approached Avery just before boarding. She spoke softly and placed her scarf, deep red with golden embroidery meets around Avery's neck, foreseeing more than just enemy or friend. Back at the base, command was split. Lennox filed a complaint, disregard of kill order. Avery filed her own report. Prevented unnecessary loss of human life. Her footage showed everything. Clear visuals, timestamps, expressions, even the man's hesitation. Command watched in silence. Then General Malcolm Graves, the same officer who once kept her secret, spoke plainly. She was right again. But protocol? Protocol doesn't override judgment when judgment saves lives. Lennox was reassigned.
Avery, she was given a citation, not for heroism,
but for restraint under fire. Later that week, Avery sat alone watching her footage. She paused the moment just before she lowered her rifle. That second shot, the one she didn't take, had saved a man, 3 children, and her own soul. A message from her mother popped up on her screen. Still your father's daughter meant, but also something more now. His conscience. His judgment. His eyes. Avery closed her laptop. She didn't need the world to know. But she wanted herself to remember. The military forums were buzzing again. Another leaked clip. This time it showed a woman lowering a sniper, rifle and running, directly into a suspected blast zone. The camera caught the moment of confrontation. The unarmed man being disarmed, the children being saved. Again, her face was blurred. Again, the title read, Echo Eye returns and saves lives with her voice. No one knew who she was, but everyone felt what she stood for. A new recruit stopped Avery outside the base mess hall. Ma'am, are you Echo Eye? She smiled. Echo Eye's a ghost. I just carry a camera. The recruit handed her a small patch, homemade, stitched with thread. One eye sees, one eye acts. She accepted it without a word. In her quarters, Avery taped 2 photos above her bunk. One, the aftermath of her first shot, battlefield smoke and stillness. The other, a photo she'd taken herself, 3 children sleeping peacefully in a truck, unaware they'd ever been in danger. Beneath it, she wrote in permanent marker, Not every shot that saves lives needs a bullet. She turned off the light, and for once she slept without nightmares. The call came just before dawn. Avery Blake was lacing her boots when her comm tablet buzzed. It wasn't the usual encrypted line. It was her personal device and something no one used anymore. The message was just one sentence. Your name's attached to the Echo Eye video on Skyfront Media. She froze. Not codename. Not silhouette. Her name. Her identity. Blown. Her hands trembled slightly, the same way they had that night on the ridge. She opened her locker, stared at her reflection in the dented mirror. She wasn't sure what scared her more. The exposure, or the responsibility that came with it. Within hours, the story hit every major network. Identity confirmed, U.S. media specialist. Avery Blake, a.k.a. Echo Eye,
saved 9 lives
across 2 missions despite orders. To stay out of combat. Her face was everywhere. News scrolls, documentaries, reaction videos. Some called her a hero. Others called her reckless. Some veterans accused her of glorifying insubordination. But then the letters started again. From civilians. From soldiers. From families. One letter came from the brother of a soldier who hadn't made it back from Red Valley. He didn't make it. But he spoke of you in his last call. Said he'd seen a woman shoot with more clarity than anyone he'd ever served with. And then choose not to shoot when it mattered most. He said that's what made you dangerous and brilliant. Not the gun. The choice. Thank you for giving him something to believe in before the end. At Central Command, the debate was brutal. General Graves sat stone-faced as a dozen senior advisors argued. She disobeyed protocol twice. She also prevented casualties twice. She's unorthodox. She's effective. They turned to Graves. General, she's now a symbol. What do we do with her? He looked down at the challenge coin on his desk, the one only 12 people had ever earned. His voice was low but absolute. We let her speak. They invited Avery to speak at the Global Defense Alliance's leadership Summit in Geneva, live. Global broadcast, military leaders from 42 nations. She didn't want to go. I'm not a politician. I'm not a mascot, she told her superior. But you are Echo Eye, he said quietly. So she went. Stage lights blinded her. The room went quiet. She stepped up to the mic and began with a whisper. I was never supposed to be there. Her voice carried. I was trained to film, not to fight. To document war, not decide it. But I found myself holding the weight of decisions no one expected me to face. She looked into the cameras. I didn't want to be a hero. I wanted to be useful. And sometimes being useful means seeing what others don't, and acting before someone else pays the price. The room stayed silent. The first time I fired a rifle, I saved 6 lives. The second time I didn't fire and saved more. Heroism isn't about action or inaction. It's about responsibility. And I'll carry that responsibility, whether you call me a soldier or a mistake. She stepped back. Thunderous applause. Back at her hotel room, Avery video called her mother. They didn't speak for 10 seconds. Just stared. Just smiled. I saw it, her mother finally said. How bad was it? Avery asked. Her mother chuckled. You were brilliant, scared, honest. Exactly who I raised. There was a pause. Avery hesitated. Mom, do you think Dad would have approved? Her mother's voice broke just a little. He would have saluted you, and whispered, that's my girl. Weeks later, Avery wasn't reassigned. She was redefined. No longer just a recon shooter. No longer a camera girl. She was now embedded judgment officer. A new military position designed for personnel, trained to both capture truth and act upon it, on and off the battlefield. She would lead missions where decisions couldn't wait for protocol, where life and death hung on instinct. One day, deep in a contested zone, her team froze when a young boy wandered into a minefield. Soldiers panicked. No orders covered this. Avery stepped forward. She handed off her rifle, kept only her camera, and slowly walked into the field, guiding the boy, one careful step at a time. Every movement filmed, every heartbeat felt. They made it out, alive. Years passed. New cadets at training bases whispered her story. Not in celebration, but in reverence. She was the sniper who never wanted to be one. The camera girl who carried more courage than bullets. The one who saw the shot, and then chose whether to take it. And in a dusty military museum exhibit under Modern Heroes of Silent Valor, her name appeared without rank. Just a line. Avery Blake. Saw, chose, changed everything. Avery never did another interview, never cashed in on her fame, never claimed credit. But every now and then someone would find a challenge coin, or a red scarf, or a photo of a girl with a lens standing where no one else dared stand. And they'd whisper, Echo Eye was never supposed to be there. And that's exactly why she mattered most.